To save my husband Luan, I took the fatal poisoned arrow meant for him. From that day on, I lost all hope of bearing children and became bedridden. Yet he turned around and married the Chancellor's legitimate daughter, demoting me to a concubine where I suffered abuse until my death. When I opened my eyes again, I decisively feigned death, letting the poisoned arrow pierce this faithless man. My mother-in-law, rushing in, seized my hand, her eyes reddening with emotion. Then she turned to my husband, lying on the bed, and said coldly, "Arrange his funeral promptly. Ensure it is grand and magnificent. My son must not be treated with disrespect. Assassins! General! Madam! Beware!" The guard's anxious voice echoed. I snapped back to reality, watching assassins closing in around us. This scene? All too familiar. In my past life, it was here I took the arrow meant for Luan, gravely wounded. From then on, I languished in bed, a target for others' abuse. As death approached, I begged heaven for a second chance. This time, I would never sacrifice my life to save such a faithless man. I looked up. Sure enough, a poisoned arrow streaked toward Luan. Seeing Luan beside me, utterly unaware, my heart leapt with triumph. Yet my face remained frozen in panic. In the next instant, the poisoned arrow pierced Luan's heart, with his agonized scream as he collapsed. It was all over. The assassins, their mission accomplished, retreated immediately. By the time the guards rushed in, Luan had already collapsed, poisoned into unconsciousness. His lips had turned an eerie purplish blue, clearly in critical condition. "Madam, I'll go fetch divine physicianly at once." The guard started to leave but was stopped by me. I pulled out the antidote pills I carried and forced them into Luan's mouth, saying, "Returning to the mansion is the priority. Dr. Li is attending to the princess today. How could we disturb Her Highness? Let the estate physician examine him first." My expression was stern. The guards dared not argue, and they immediately carried Luan back to the Marquis's residence. It was just such a pity. No matter how fast they ran, it was futile. This poison was exceptionally sinister. In the entire capital, only Dr. Li possessed the antidote. In my previous life, after I was poisoned, Luan dared not go to the princess's residence to seek help, fearing he might offend her. He watched helplessly as the poison took hold, leaving me clinging to life. And so, I missed the optimal window for antidote administration, leaving me bedridden and infertile for life. Given another chance, I would naturally repay him in kind. I would return every ounce of pain he inflicted upon me, exactly as it was given, just like before. The court physician shook his head repeatedly at these symptoms, immediately declaring himself powerless. Terrified, my legs went weak. I threw myself onto Luan, weeping with heart-wrenching anguish. "My son, my poor child, are you going to make your mother bury her own child?" Luan's mother, upon hearing the news, rushed over in a panic. Seeing me weeping so, she thought Luan had already breathed his last. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted on the spot. Her first words upon waking were, "Prepare the funeral arrangements. Remember, it must be a grand burial. My son must not be treated with disrespect." For a moment, the surrounding silence was as thick as death. Luan, who had only just been revived by the golden needles, was utterly enraged by these words and fainted again. No matter how the court physician applied needles or pressed pressure points, it proved utterly useless. "Madam, madam, please stop weeping. There's still a chance to save the general." The court physician's words left Lu's mother stunned. Upon learning they'd summoned the divine physician Li, her anger flared. "How dare you? Are you suggesting we compete with the princess for his life? If we anger Her Highness, what future would remain for our general's household? My son is kind-hearted, always putting others before himself since childhood. If he regains consciousness, he would surely choose death over endangering us. After speaking, Lu's mother, her eyes red, gave me a few final instructions before retreating to the inner courtyard. Overcome with grief, the wait dragged on. The moon had climbed high in the sky. By the time Master Li arrived to treat him, the poison had already seeped deep into Lu Hang's lungs. Curing him was beyond hope. The rest of his life would likely be spent confined to a sickbed, never again able to ride a horse or wield a whip. My medical skills are inadequate. Madam, please do not grieve. Master Li shook his head helplessly and departed. Those gathered around couldn't help but express their regret and sympathy. It was true. Lu Heng was a military commander, unable to fight on the battlefield. His future was undoubtedly cut short. In my previous life, I had also considered this very point. That was why I risked my life to protect him. After all, our fortunes were intertwined, we rose and fell together. If Lu Heng met with misfortune, the entire general's mansion would be ruined. Alas, my life-risking protection earned me nothing but a faithless man. So in this life, I will carve out my own path to survival. After instructing the servants to care for Lu Heng, I went to see Lu's mother. As I expected, the lamps in her courtyard were still lit, and all the attendants had been sent away. Ning, it's been so long. Lu's mother and I shared a knowing smile. We both understood the other had been reborn. In my past life, Lu's mother treated me exceptionally well. Before Lu Heng made his name in the military, I had cared for her for years in the countryside. Chopping wood, fetching water, cooking, washing clothes, I never uttered a single complaint. Lu Heng endured hardships in the army. Countless times, Lu's mother and I went hungry, froze, or fell ill. Yet we never told him a word. Later, I was demoted to a concubine, confined to the most remote, dilapidated courtyard in the manor. The servants, opportunistic and cruel, tormented me relentlessly. My food was always rotten and foul-smelling. My clothes and bedding were torn to shreds. Yet every day, I was forced to wash and mend the manor servants' garments. The slightest mistake earned me beatings. My already frail health deteriorated rapidly under such treatment, nearly costing me my life. Lu's mother, heartbroken for me, risked her own life to protect me. Lu Heng, however, claimed she was mentally unstable and had her locked away in the Buddhist hall. There, she was forced to kneel and copy sutras daily, forced to drink so-called exorcism water to drive away evil spirits. It wasn't long before she was tortured to death. That brief encounter just now, Lu's mother's demeanor, her gaze, made it clear to me. It seems I'm not the only one who's been reborn. What a pity that Lu Heng, that unfilial son, wasn't shot dead. It was clear. Lu's mother hated this wicked son with a passion, even more than she hated me. But that suited me perfectly. I had a plan that would absolutely satisfy Lu's mother. The next day, Lu Heng finally awoke from his coma. Upon learning he would now be bedridden for life, never to achieve anything again, he immediately went mad. Seeing me enter, he roared furiously. "You venomous woman! Why didn't you rush to the princess's residence to summon divine physician Li to save me? How could you be so heartless?" Watching Lu Heng's collapse, I nearly laughed out loud. Such a familiar scene. In my past life, I had pressed him in exactly the same way. But Lu Heng's face turned cold. Frowning, he scolded me with deep disappointment. There are boundaries between ruler and subject. How could I compete with Her Highness the Princess for a man? I've fought countless battles, risked my life countless times. Am I supposed to gamble my entire reputation just to save you? Besides, You're not dead. Why should we risk offending the princess? We were husband and wife. Couldn't you have considered my feelings? Since you're not dead, why get so angry? At that moment, I covered my face, sobbing with hurt, and spoke each word clearly to Luan. Watching Luan seethe with fury yet unable to refute a single word, I nearly burst out laughing. And this was only the beginning. I still had a grand gift to present him. Several days passed. Lu's mother finally returned, weary and dust-covered from her journey through the countryside. Accompanying her was a young man who had just come of age, named Luan. While everyone wondered who Luan was, Lu's mother had already gone to Lu Hang's room. Pointing at Luan, she declared, "Son, this is your own flesh and blood brother. He was frail as a child and raised in the countryside, never having left home. Now that you're so ill, it's time for him to take on his responsibilities." She then turned to Luan. "Why are you standing there like a fool? Quickly call him elder brother." The two women acted in perfect harmony, their coordination seamless. Before Luan could hesitate, the recognition of kinship was complete. By the time Luan regained his senses, the pair had vanished without a trace. Rumor had it they'd gone to the ancestral hall to pay respects at the ancestral tablets. Damn it! I never had a brother like that. It's all fake. I'll petition the court. I'll expose the truth to the entire capital. Song Ning, don't think you can replace me with some imposter. No way. Watching Lu Hang's face contort with rage at helplessness, a useless wreck who couldn't even get out of bed, I couldn't help but laugh. I stepped forward and slapped Luan several times across the face. Only after he was forced into silence did I speak. Luan isn't a Lu family bloodline, are you? Don't forget. You were nothing but a beggar child without even a household registration. If the Lu family hadn't taken you in, you wouldn't have had a single chance to fight on the battlefield. Our royal house has always feared generals whose achievements overshadow the throne. The law stipulates that only those with household registration and living relatives may join the army to earn military merit. This is to prevent generals, unburdened by ties, from harboring rebellious thoughts. As for Luan, he was a beggar child taken in by Lu's mother out of kindness. To fulfill his dream of fighting on the battlefield, Lu's mother exhausted herself pleading with others to secure him a household registration and identity. This matter could be trivial or grave, but if it came to light, Luan would inevitably be branded with treason and fraud. In my past life, Luan ruthlessly killed both Lu's mother and me, likely to ensure the secret vanished forever. If you know what's good for you, you know what to do. That very noon, envoys arrived from the palace, claiming to bear imperial orders to visit Luan. They also met with Luan. Upon seeing Luan, frail and sickly, gasping for breath with every step, the visitors' eyes lit up. They soon returned to the palace, thoroughly satisfied. The reason for their satisfaction I understood perfectly well. Though ruthless, Luan had distinguished himself in battle, now rendered useless. His Majesty would not simply abandon him. By custom, he would likely bestow favors upon other members of the Lu family as a token of grace. Having no sons of my own, Luan, his own flesh and blood brother, became the sole candidate for such an honor. Yet Luan happened to be a sickly invalid, unfit for military command. Thus, His Majesty could openly grant him a ceremonial post, conveniently seizing the military authority held by Luan. This avoided giving critics ammunition while preventing the Lu family from producing another formidable new general. After all, the border regions were now peaceful. Fewer threatening generals were preferable, just as I had anticipated. Within days, the Imperial edict arrived. Luan was appointed as a scholar of the Hanlin Academy. Though a fourth-rank position, it was notoriously leisurely and devoid of real authority. But for me and Lu's mother, this was sufficient. given Luan's abilities and talents. In my previous life, he had risen to the highest rank and become a minister of state despite having no connections. Now, with the Lu family as his stepping stone, his future prospects were boundless. Yet at this moment, Luan remained merely an orphan from a humble family, bereft of parents. Lu's mother and I chose Luan for two reasons. First, to secure a debt of gratitude from this future power broker. Second, Luan was one of the few in his past life who had mocked and exposed Lu Hang's hypocrisy. Moreover, he possessed noble character, remaining loyal to the emperor and devoted to the people throughout his life. Such a man deserved smoother paths and greater heights. Luan was deeply grateful for my and his mother's support. After entering the imperial court, he worked diligently day after day, seeking counsel from colleagues, and soon earned a reputation for diligence. Faced with all this, Lu Heng was furious beyond measure, even contemplating suicide multiple times. But his selfish nature prevented him from harming himself. He could only seethe with rage day after day, especially these past few days. Discovering his daily necessities growing ever more meager, even reaching a pitifully shabby state, nearly drove him to tear the roof off in fury. "General, please calm your anger. Most of our household's wealth has been distributed by the lady to your soldiers. She said you shared life and death with them. Now that you've retired, this money is a token of brotherly affection." The maid's words were better left unsaid. They nearly drove Lu Heng to his death. I've said it before. Lu Heng is a selfish man. In his eyes, brotherly affection is worthless. Learning that his money had been given away to this group felt like having a layer of flesh carved from his living body. Lu Heng was enraged. He forced himself to his feet, stormed out the door, and roared furiously in the main hall. "Song Ning, you venomous woman. How dare you treat me so shabbily? Every penny in this household is mine. What right do those mud-legged peasants have to it? They're nothing but dogs following my heels. How dare they lay claim to my money?" Lu Heng raged. He didn't notice his subordinates rushing to see him. Several burly men, now both anxious and furious, their dark faces flushed crimson with rage. They stared at Lu Heng in disbelief. Even after I had him escorted back, it took them a long while to recover. This didn't surprise me at all. I did all this precisely to make them see Lu Heng's true colors sooner. Throughout my past and present lives, I'd always been perplexed. How could someone as narrow-minded, selfish, and ruthless as Lu Heng deploy such astonishing military strategies and tactics on the battlefield? Only after sending people to investigate did I learn the truth. The one possessing both courage and wisdom had never been Lu Heng, but these simple, loyal brothers. They never sought credit. Even when they devised brilliant plans, they dared not speak up. All the glory went to Lu Heng alone. Even upon learning this, I felt no anger. Instead, I believed they were all brothers whose voice mattered little. And so it was. They handed Lu Heng the title of Grand General on a silver platter. The rewards and glory rightfully theirs were all claimed by Lu Heng alone. Now, I have merely returned everything to its rightful owners. Half a month later, I received letters from these men. They wrote that they had returned to the frontier. Having once misjudged character, they were now determined to rebuild their careers from the ground up. This time, they vowed never again to commit the folly of handing over their future to another. They thanked me for revealing Lu Heng's true nature and for returning their money. Such great kindness would be repaid in full someday. I smiled. With that stinking rag, Lu Heng, out of the way, the pearl should finally shine with its inherent brilliance. The following months were among my few leisurely stretches, no longer accompanied by that poison-ridden, gasping, frail body. All these years, I'd been busy caring for Lu's mother and managing every detail of Lu Heng's household. I'd gradually forgotten that I myself was still but a young woman of 18, given a second chance at life. How could I squander such precious years? As a woman, unable to enter the Imperial court or fight on the battlefield, commerce was my only path. I sought out Lu's mother first. Few know now that the Lu family was once a renowned merchant house in Jiangnan. Later, pursued by enemies, Lu's father perished, leaving only Lu's mother to flee to the outskirts of the capital. Lonely and heartbroken, she took in the beggar boy Lu Heng on a moment of compassion. Past lives and present ones. These words, Mother Lu shared only with me. Mother, our family's wealth is meager now. We cannot afford to sit idly by and squander it. I know you have a firm grasp on business matters. This task must fall to you. I entrusted all the estate's assets to Mother Lu's management. It wasn't that I was lazy or incompetent. Though I had been reborn, I hadn't suddenly become a genius overnight. Combining both lifetimes, my knowledge of commerce remained superficial at best. I could maintain what we had, but I couldn't expand our territory. Now, if I was going to do this, I would do it to the best of my ability. Having Mother Lu take charge as the head of the business while I assisted and learned alongside her was the best arrangement. Madame Lu certainly lived up to my expectations. In just a few short months, the Lu family trading house had already made a name for itself. Its holdings now spanned industries far and wide. Rough estimates suggested it truly earned a fortune daily. Following Madame Lu's lead, I absorbed much of the art of commerce through constant exposure. As for Lu Heng, perhaps having come to terms with his uselessness, he no longer clamored for death. He spent his days holed up in the courtyard, often muttering to himself. The maid assigned to watch him reported that Lu Heng had been murmuring lately that the time was near, that someone would come to rescue him soon. Even in his sleep, he would unconsciously utter a woman's name. Zhao Hanyi. The maid couldn't understand, but this name was painfully familiar to me. This person was the legitimate daughter of the Chancellor's household whom Lu Heng had newly married in my previous life. After Zhao Hanyi entered the household, she harbored intense loathing and hatred toward me, the former legitimate wife, plotting against and humiliating me at every turn. My death was the result of her and Lu Heng's joint scheme. In my previous life, I never understood. How could Lu Heng, a commoner who had spent years campaigning abroad, ever win the hand of the Chancellor's beloved daughter? Yet observing their interactions, they seemed as if they had known each other for ages. After rebirth, I dispatched people to investigate this matter thoroughly. It turned out Zhao Hanyi was originally a wandering beggar child, crawling out of the same beggar's den as Lu Heng, simply because she bore a resemblance to the Chancellor's long-lost legitimate daughter. She was secretly adopted and transformed into a noble lady. Throughout this process, Lu Heng spared no effort. He not only spent a fortune hiring tutors to teach Zhao Hanyi etiquette and protocol but also meticulously researched the preferences of every member of the Chancellor's household, all to ensure Zhao Hanyi could firmly establish herself. These two individuals, one sought to rise from the gutter to become a noble lady. The other aimed to be the Chancellor's son-in-law. Together, they were a perfect match. Though Lu Heng was now crippled and powerless, the path he had paved for Zhao Hanyi remained intact. According to their plan, Zhao Hanyi should soon chance upon the Chancellor's wife within days, whereupon she would perform a heroic act of righteousness. The scheme was meticulously crafted. In her past life, it had indeed succeeded. But this lifetime, it would ultimately prove futile, like drawing water in a bamboo basket. Perhaps sensing Zhao Hanyi's imminent debut, Lu Heng could no longer sit still. He began frequently contacting his former confidants, often plotting late into the night. It made sense. Zhao Hanyi was his only hope for a comeback now. Though I control the general's mansion, compared to the Chancellor's mansion, a noble house with a century of prestige, it pales in comparison. Once Zhao Hanyi wins favor with the Chancellor's household, crushing me would be effortless. Then Lu Heng could naturally seize power again. Even if he couldn't be a military commander, it wouldn't matter. After all, the Chancellor's household wielded immense influence. They could easily give him some idle post. I found it amusing. I secretly ordered the guards not to interfere with Lu Hang's actions, letting him run wild. People, you see, the closer they get to the peak, the harder they fall. On the day Zhao Hanyi made her move, I took Lu Heng with me to burn incense. Our destination was the very place where Zhao Hanyi would make her grand entrance. Pudu Temple. This temple, presided over by a renowned master, was famously efficacious. Many noble ladies and young mistresses from the capital loved to come here to burn incense and worship the Buddha. In my past life, I never witnessed Zhao Hanyi's grand theatrical performance. This time, I certainly couldn't miss it. Anticipation wasn't just mine. Lu Heng beside me had his heart in his throat. The closer we got to Pudu Temple, the more his entire body trembled slightly. I knew he was overcome with excitement. The day of vengeance. The day he could trample me underfoot, would it come? It all hinged on this very moment. Alas, we were delayed along the way. By the time we arrived, the performance was already halfway through. Madam, I was merely acting on basic decency. There's no need to dwell on it. Here is the amulet pouch that was snatched from you earlier. Take it. Zhao Hanyi, clad in white and gripping a jade sword, carried herself with impeccable decorum. She perfectly embodied the persona Lu Heng had crafted for her, an orphan swordswoman roaming the martial world. Her every gesture and expression bore an uncanny resemblance to the lady of the Prime Minister's mansion across from her. Whispers began to stir among the onlookers. Some murmured it must be fate. How could two people bear such striking similarity? Zhao Hanyi maintained outward composure, her expression calm and dignified, yet her eyes betrayed a strange mix of anticipation and excitement. She waited for the wife of the Prime Minister to initiate conversation. But in the next moment, a young woman of exquisite grace and extraordinary bearing stepped slowly down from the Prime Minister's carriage. Merely standing there, she commanded the attention of everyone present. Mother, we must thank this young lady quickly. We mustn't delay the incense offering. Father and my brothers are waiting at home. At these words, the wife of the minister snapped back to reality, tenderly taking the young woman's hand. After offering polite thanks to Zhao Hanyi, she promptly boarded the carriage and departed. Her retreating figure showed not a trace of lingering. Nothing left to see. The onlookers waved their hands and dispersed. Only Zhao Hanyi remained frozen in place, staring wide-eyed in disbelief, seemingly unable to process what had just happened. Well, of course, such immense fortune had just flown away. Anyone would feel resentful. But what could she do? Who could blame her when that woman resembled the minister's wife even more than she did? Not only did she resemble her, she had even preceded her through the gates of the Prime Minister's residence. She had paid homage at the ancestral hall, met the family elders. All that remained was the formal announcement of her identity. Zhao Hanyi never imagined someone would beat her to the punch. Filled with rage, she had no outlet for her fury. She could only glare with dark, shadowed eyes before finally storming off in indignation. As for Lu Heng, he had long since fainted from the shock of the scene. And no wonder. Watching his final trump card shatter completely, that couldn't feel good. Fainting from rage was only natural. Besides, hadn't I come here precisely to witness Lu Heng and Zhao Hanyi's collapse after their schemes failed? That's right. I orchestrated all of this. After reincarnating, I finally understood. If Lu Heng could arrange for someone to infiltrate the Chancellor's mansion, amassing such immense power and wealth, why couldn't I? To be honest, if I hadn't looked so unlike the Chancellor's wife, I might have even taken the place of the Chancellor's legitimate daughter myself. My original plan was to send someone to find a lookalike to help me secure the position of the Chancellor's legitimate daughter. But by a twist of fate, I unexpectedly found the Chancellor's long-lost legitimate daughter. After confirming her identity, I returned her to the Chancellor's residence and politely declined the family's requests to visit and express their gratitude. As far as I'm concerned, the best repayment would be if Zhao Hanyi failed to achieve anything. The reason I orchestrated today's events was simply to witness Lu Heng's utter collapse as she loses everything. Of course, there's also Zhao Hanyi. Having been reborn, if even Lu Heng ended up in this state because of me, how could Zhao Hanyi possibly escape unscathed? Perhaps the blow from earlier that day was too great. Lu Heng remained unconscious for an entire day before waking. This in itself was nothing unusual. But the servants attending him reported that Lu Heng seemed like a completely different person, suddenly acting wildly and erratically. He was spouting utter nonsense. He insisted the one struck by the arrow was clearly me. How could it have become him? He also claimed his plan couldn't possibly fail, it had succeeded in his previous life. And so on and so forth. The estate physician did come to examine him, but he couldn't make head nor tail of it either. In the end, he could only say it might be madness. He advised me to brace myself. I laughed at that. This wasn't madness at all. Lu Heng had reincarnated too. It was just a pity. He'd reincarnated too late. Too late for anything to change the outcome. But clearly, Lu Heng didn't see it that way. He was too arrogant. So arrogant he blamed all these changes on fate's injustice. On karma gone awry. He never once considered that I had reincarnated too. Or rather, he simply dared not think in that direction. Over the next few days, Lu Heng began probing me, both openly and covertly. In his view, if I had reincarnated, now holding absolute power, I'd have ample opportunity to kill him and Zhao Hanyi, to avenge my brutal death in my previous life. After all, what he and Zhao Hanyi did to me back then was utterly inhuman. He understood this better than anyone. Yet I hadn't made a move. I even treated him to fine food and drink, ensuring the court physician visited regularly for checkups. There was no hint of letting him die. Naturally, Lu Heng's probing yielded nothing. Rebirth itself was too mystical and extraordinary. Mother Lu and I had long warned each other, this matter must never be revealed to anyone. But just in case, and to provide a plausible explanation for my actions, I hired a wandering Daoist priest to reside in the rear courtyard. Not only did I feed and clothe him well, but I also went daily to burn incense and pay respects. In fact, the majority of the general's household funds were spent on this Daoist priest. Unable to probe anything from me, Lu Heng turned his attention to those around me. He soon discovered the existence of this wandering Daoist priest. He also discovered that this Daoist was guiding me daily, teaching me how to stay vigilant and keep my distance from him. That was it. Lu Heng flew into a rage, kicked open the door, and without a word, slashed the Daoist to death with his sword. Demon Daoist! He roared, daring to drive a wedge between me and my wife. You deserve to die. I was utterly terrified. Under Lu Heng's interrogation, I quickly confessed the whole story. Ever since he was struck by that arrow, I'd been restless and fearful, dreading another tragedy. I'd specially invited this Daoist into the mansion for guidance, following his instructions to the letter. Only this way could the household remain peaceful and trouble-free. Lu Heng was furious. He first berated me for my superstitious ignorance, then ordered the Daoist priest torn limb from limb and thrown into the river to feed the fish. Only after this was done, did Lu Heng lift his face, wrap his arm around me, and speak tenderly. My lady. That priest was clearly of ill intent, spreading demonic lies. As long as we stand united as husband and wife, all will surely go smoothly. After that day, I truly returned to my former self. I became completely obedient to Lu Heng, yielding to his every wish. Husband, I said, I was wrong before. I listened to that Daoist priest and caused you so much hardship. Rest assured. Once you return alive this time, I will mend my ways completely. At first, Lu Heng nodded repeatedly. But halfway through, he sensed something was amiss. What did she mean? Once he returns alive? My eyes reddened as I grabbed a handkerchief and cried out. My lord, you likely don't know. That Daoist priest is a distant relative of the princess, and she holds him in high regard. He hasn't appeared these past few days. The princess must have sensed something amiss. No sooner had I finished speaking, a group of guards from the princess's residence burst into the courtyard, roughly binding Lu Heng and dragging him out. Upon inquiry, I learned the Daoist had been murdered, enraging the princess. She swore vengeance. Were it not for Lu Heng's former official rank and military merits, he would have been beheaded today. Even so, judging by the current situation, even if Lu Heng survived, he'd be severely punished. Lu Heng was already weakened by old injuries, bedridden and frail. This shock. He fainted on the spot. The princess's guards dragged him away like a dead pig. After Lu Heng was bound and taken away, I decided to feign unconsciousness myself, sparing myself the trouble of pleading for him everywhere. Everyone in the general's residence lived in constant fear, terrified the princess might take her anger out on them. After all, the current emperor had no sons, only this one princess as his daughter. She was truly a golden branch and jade leaf. A single careless word could lead to the execution of 9 clans. Now that I was unconscious, Lu's mother had already departed south for business, and Luan had been posted to Longnan. The mansion, leaderless, descended into even greater chaos. It was precisely at this moment that Lu Heng unexpectedly returned. Not only was he unharmed, but he was personally escorted back by the princess's trusted attendant. The princess decreed, General Lu Heng is a man of noble character and exceptional virtue. You must serve him with utmost devotion. As for General Lu's wife, Lady Song, her jealousy and foolishness warrant confinement for 1 month to reflect on her transgressions. Upon hearing this, everyone present bowed their heads in reverent obedience. No one knew why Lu Heng had suddenly gained the princess's favor. But one thing was undeniable. The general's residence was about to undergo a seismic shift. The once derided general, deemed useless by all, was poised to soar to new heights. As for me, wasn't it obvious? The princess disliked me, even despised me. My days of ease were surely numbered. Before I could fully process this, the servants of the general's residence, ever quick to shift allegiances, sealed my courtyard gate. Only a handful of personal maids were permitted to remain. I was blatantly placed under house arrest. But it didn't end there. The daily meals delivered were not only meager and cold, but mostly spoiled and rotten. In the depths of winter, there wasn't even a single piece of charcoal to warm the room. Madam, this is sheer bullying. You're the mistress of this house. This treatment is worse than a servant's. What if she's a princess? Even with all her power, does she think she can just kill us? The maid, Xiao Zhu, was furious, ranting indignantly for a long while. I gave a soft chuckle. The princess wouldn't kill me, but she had plenty of ways to humiliate me. A few days passed. My prediction proved prophetic. The princess issued another decree, declaring my conduct unbecoming and my private morals corrupt, unworthy of the title general's wife. She ordered my removal as the principal consort. Lu Heng was granted a new, beautiful bride. I recognized this woman, Zhao Hanyi, or rather, Princess Zhao. She had transformed overnight. Now the princess's sworn sister, even receiving an official title. Her rise was truly dazzling. No matter how absurd and unreasonable this decree was, not a single soul in the capital dared utter a word against it. On the contrary, everyone rushed to agree. Some congratulated Lu Heng on finding such a good match, while others joined the chorus to slander my character. The princess truly sees through everything. General Lu's former wife was nothing but a poisonous woman. She spent her days mistreating servants and squandering money. I heard she even cheated on General Lu while he was poisoned. What a disgrace to the family! Thankfully, the princess, wise and decisive, bestowed this splendid match upon Zhou County princess. It's hard to imagine. Those same people who once praised me for staying calm in crisis, never abandoning my post, single-handedly holding up the Lu family. It was them. On the day of Luan and Zhao Hanyi's grand wedding, the city was ablaze with red decorations, joy filling every street. These past few days, Luan has gained the princess's favor. Word is she's already petitioned for him to become Minister of Personnel. The Imperial decree should arrive soon. Given this situation, who dares not attend and congratulate Luan on his joyous occasion? By contrast, my place of soft confinement in this cold courtyard feels utterly bleak and shabby. Though confined indoors, the crackling of firecrackers and the clamor from the front courtyard still reached my ears. How vibrant and joyous it all sounded. Luan basked in triumph. His festivities lavish and grand. Countless guests marveled and envied the spectacle. The irony was bitter. Every coin spent, including Zhao Hanyi's dowry, had been painstakingly earned by Luan's mother and myself. Now, however, Luan shamelessly pocketed it all. After the wedding banquet ended, Luan, arm in arm with Zhao Hanyi, condescended to visit me. Both dressed in crimson wedding robes and gold-threaded brocade, their arrogant and unrestrained demeanor mirrored that of my past life exactly. So this is my sister? How wretched you look. When Lu and I share our life together, I hope you won't be too sad. Zhao Hanyi covered her mouth with a light laugh. After mocking me thoroughly from start to finish, she finally departed with apparent reluctance. Watching Zhao Hanyi's retreating figure, I smiled. Enjoy your moment of triumph while you can. Opportunities like this won't come often. After that day, I fell gravely ill. The household physician diagnosed me with a contagious disease requiring isolation and rest. Thus, my quarters became utterly desolate. Beyond the 3 daily meals, not a soul crossed my threshold. Zhao Hanyi longed to humiliate and oppress me, but for the sake of her own life, she endured in silence. During the time that followed, the entire general's mansion buzzed with activity. Either the princess bestowed some gift, or Luan received another promotion. The capital's noble families practically wore down the general's mansion's threshold. A month later, an event shook the court and the realm. The princess rebelled and forced the emperor from the throne. That morning during court, His Majesty suffered a sudden heart attack and collapsed. Despite the Imperial Medical Bureau's all-out efforts, he showed no signs of regaining consciousness. At that very moment, the princess entered the palace accompanied by the divine physician Li. With them came 5,000 rebel soldiers, each fully armed and battle-ready. Everywhere they went, they were met by internal collaborators, allowing them to storm the emperor's bedchamber without losing a single man. It was clearly a long-planned conspiracy. And the leader of these rebels? None other than Luan. Though now frail and unable to fight on the battlefield, Luan excelled in his uncanny foresight and uncanny ability to foresee events. He instantly recognized where defenses were weak and vulnerabilities lay. "My soldiers," the princess declared with a smile, "all obstacles within the palace are now cleared. After today, I shall be the sovereign of this realm." She then drew her sword and strode directly into the emperor's bedchamber. Soon, screams echoed through the chamber. But the victim was not the emperor. As a sharp blade shot skyward, the palace's hidden imperial guards mobilized in full force. The rebel forces led by the princess put up a brief, desperate resistance before being utterly subdued. Within the bedchamber, a squadron of imperial guards now surged forth. The figure at their head was all too familiar. Li Yong. one of those brothers-in-arms once exploited by Lu Heng, whose strategic brilliance and military achievements had been stolen. Li Yong, didn't you promise to follow me and support the princess's ascension? You treacherous scoundrel! Lu Heng was furious. He never imagined that the once simple-minded and single-minded Li Yong hadn't been swayed by him. He had even betrayed him. This meant his entire plan was ruined. Yes. The only reason Lu Heng had gained the princess's favor was entirely due to his rebirth granting him foresight, coupled with his former prestige in the military. In his previous life, the princess had already attempted a rebellion, but it had failed. This time around, Lu Heng, relying on his foreknowledge of the princess's intentions, had defected and offered his counsel. Not only had he saved his own life, but he had also become the princess's honored guest, personally devising all the strategies for her rebellion. First, he contacted his former subordinates like Li Yong, using a mix of kindness and threats, cajoling and deceiving them. He made them obey the princess and delay all reinforcing armies. Moreover, because of his rebirth, he knew in advance that His Majesty would fall gravely ill and lose consciousness today. This allowed the princess to seize the opportunity, march in with her troops, kill her father, and seize the throne. Once successful, he would have earned immense merit, with rapid advancement within reach. Alas, Li Yong had long seen through his true colors. His defection merely feigned. Meanwhile, on the Emperor's side, he was not the only one reborn. Did I not know the Emperor would fall gravely ill today? Days prior, with Luan's aid, I had already entered the palace bearing evidence of the princess's conspiracy with Lu Heng. Upon learning this, His Majesty fainted from the shock. During the Imperial physician's treatment, they discovered the Emperor's illness early. Thus, everything today was merely a charade, a ploy to capture these rebels in one fell swoop. After that day, the princess was secretly executed. All the high officials and nobles in the capital who had sided with or supported the princess were either demoted or executed. The first to face punishment was naturally Lu Heng. He and Zhao Hanyi were sentenced to capital punishment, imprisoned awaiting execution. For my role in exposing the plot, His Majesty showed exceptional mercy, sparing the lives of the rest of the general's household. Of course, this was merely the official explanation. Behind the scenes, Lu Heng's mother and I had long ago donated the majority of our accumulated wealth to His Majesty, demonstrating our loyalty. As for Luan, his bearing and erudition had already earned him His Majesty's secret favor and trust. His assignment outside the capital was merely a cover. The true purpose was to instruct someone, the future emperor. It was common knowledge that His Majesty had no sons, only a princess. The reason? It all stems from the jealousy of the Empress Wang, the princess's birth mother, who nearly exterminated all the emperor's sons. The sole surviving prince was secretly sent out of the palace by the emperor and hidden outside its walls for over a decade. All these years, the emperor outwardly doted on the princess, indulging her every whim and tolerating all her arrogant, unrestrained behavior. Behind the scenes, however, he gradually dismantled the power of the Empress Dowager's maternal clan. He bided his time to eliminate the Empress Dowager. As for the princess, her death was inevitable. Her father had long harbored murderous intent and kept her under constant watch. Past lives and present. The princess's rebellions were destined to end in failure, even if she were reborn countless times. This truth would never change. Lu Heng was unaware. Upon learning he too had been reborn, I set a trap. I engineered his entry into the princess's sphere of influence. Behind the scenes, I stoked the flames, making Lu Heng, that master strategist, seem even more prescient. The more indispensable he became to the princess, the more weight my accusations against him would carry. Wouldn't they? Either way, both he and the princess were doomed to die. helping me pave a path before their demise? That's a good deed done. I've said it before. Since I've been reborn, my desire extends beyond mere survival. I will exact vengeance upon every enemy from my past life. I will also claim true freedom and peace. The day before the execution, the jailer brought word. Luan was raging and demanding to see me, refusing food and water for days. When I arrived, Luan knelt before me, weeping bitterly. Ning, save me. I was forced into all this, you must believe me. Please beg His Majesty to pardon me. Will you? Rest assured. Once I'm free, I'll restore your status as my lawful wife and love only you from then on. I found this amusing. I casually grabbed a torture device and ripped out Luan's tongue. Words so vile and disgusting, there was no point in keeping it. As for Zhao Hanyi, she, of course, could not escape her fate either. After I left, both of them were already covered in wounds. They didn't even make it to the next day's execution before they died. 3 months later, His Majesty's illness finally relapsed. On his deathbed, he passed the throne to his son, who had been abroad for years. He appointed Luan as Grand Tutor to the new emperor, tasked with assisting him in governing the realm. He bestowed Zhao Hanyi, the legitimate daughter of the chancellor's household, upon the new emperor as his empress. Even I received the title of Imperial Merchant, becoming the first female imperial merchant since the founding of the dynasty. Everyone could see the emperor was paving the way for the new ruler. He heavily relied on newly risen nobles from humble backgrounds and forged alliances through marriages with old ministers. Even the imperial treasury was propped up by me, the imperial merchant. Later, once everything was firmly established, I departed the capital. As I was leaving, Luan came to see me off. Now, he was deeply trusted by the new emperor, managing countless affairs daily. His presence at my departure was a rare moment carved out of his busiest schedule. Just leaving like this? You've cultivated Li Yong and others within the military, secured me as your confidant in the court, and even the Empress once received your favors. I had thought you would aim for more. Yes. With the power and connections I possess, I could certainly have gained more. But my ambitions never lay here. I dislike wielding power, but I must ensure those who hold it cannot harm me. Rather than live in constant fear, it's better to bind those in high positions to me through shared interests and deep bonds. Besides, I trust Luan. He is a loyal and patriotic minister. The new emperor he assists will surely be a wise ruler. People have different aspirations. I cannot spend my entire life confined to this small space. It's time to explore. I smiled and took my leave of Luan. In my previous life, I never left the cold courtyard of the general's mansion until my death. This life, with wealth and power at my disposal, why should I confine myself? The end.